Because I've always liked people and always liked noise and music and parties. I'm not rushing a pie for Madonna. Like, forget it. It was a black and white picture of a sort of wet David Beckham.
We've got to talk about the book.
Yes.
Because otherwise we'll end up talking about everything in between.
Yeah. I
So
actually woke up this morning and Becca, who works for the lovely book publishers, was like, bring a book. And I was like, Tom's got a book, Sinead's got a book. She went, bring a book. Because she said, I worry that you'll go on the radio and have such a nice time with Sinead and Tom that you forget you've written a book.
Well,
so I have one as a prop, so I remember that's what I've done.
It's a lovely book.
Lovely book.
Cover.
Looks nice.
We love it. We love it. And everybody's been reading it and absolutely obsessed with it. It's
really?
brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Oh, good.
Really, really love it.
It feels good because this week's the week that you're hearing back from people and you're getting like the odd text or the odd like review, because it's quite weird, going away from the radio, which I was doing every day, and you're getting texting every day and attention constantly, to just go and sit in my lounge on my own and be at one, which I struggled with. The first chapter is just resentment of the book. But so it's
to be honest,
it feels quite nice now that people have read it.
It's out there. It's starting to get out there, and it's officially released on Thursday.
Yes.
How would you describe it?
Well, I didn't want to do an autobiography, and I didn't want to do... I don't have an attention span, so I wanted to make a book like what I like reading. So I love, like supplements on the weekend.
Yes.
I love flicking for a supplement, like a bit of a bit on that, bit of a bit on that.
Oh.
Don't like to like sit and study something for a long time. So I thought, why don't I do that, but the book version? So loads of snapshots of stories of my life.
Wonderful.
So there's some about radio. There's one about radio and about leaving radio, but most of them are sort of all about my formative years and like growing up and my mum and dad. Sinead said it was like, what did you say? A prayer to my parents, isn't it?
It's like a love letter.
A love letter.
To his parents. It really is.
It's really lovely the way that you talk about your family, and I think that really comes across so much, that you care about them, and they're the root from which you based yourself on.
Yeah, because I've always liked people and always liked noise and music and parties, and it does stem from my mum and dad. Like when I was little, they'd always have family parties, and my mum used to do girls' night, which gets a mention in the book, which was, and they still do it now, and they've been friends since they were like 11, and now they're knocking on 80's door. They still do girls' night. And I remember as a kid, I was just sort of like mystified by it, because they'd all come around with like their clipping earrings and shoulder pads, and like they'd smell of like nice perfume,
yes,
and hairspray.
Yes, strong perfumes. Sometimes I'll walk through a department store and I think it'll be like one of those dinner dances my mum and dad
like
used to go to.
The mix on the ground floor of a Debenhams is very girls' night. Just every smell.
Oh, lovely. Oh, I wish I was invited to one of those.
Well, we can do that. You can come.
I would love
I'm having a party on Thursday, and my mum and my aunties are coming, so you can...
Well, I've met your mum. I mean, I was going to talk about this in a minute.
Oh, my God, yeah.
I met Nick and his mum when I was with my mum at Chelsea Flower Show. By the way, we're gay. I don't know.
We spent time with our mums at the Chelsea Flower Show.
And you had your legs under a barbecue, as I remember.
Yeah, I did. So I went to Chelsea Flower Show. My mum had always wanted to go, and I promised my mum that we would go, and she came down, and every time she comes to London, she goes, Nick, I don't want to go to some party. I just want to relax. And I said, no, come on the Sunday. I'm going to go to Chelsea Flower Show on the Monday. And then when she arrived on Sunday, I was like, I totally forgot I've got a DJ at a party tonight. And it was Fashion Week. And my mum came. We DJ'd, stayed out really late, and then both went to Chelsea Flower Show with like a banging hangover.
Brilliant.
Like we were both rough. So when we bumped into you, we had pulled up to like it's hard to describe. It was like
a posh barbecue.
It was a posh barbecue invented by Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, that's right. Guy Ritchie was there.
And I think the aim was, can't relate because from Oldham, and it was like, when you're like on a hunt, and I was like, no, and you've killed some grouse or something, and you don't want to go all the way back to the house to cook it. You can just have it at this like outdoor kitchen on your estate, and that's what they were selling there.
Yeah.
So we just sat there because it was warm and served wine.
And I think our mums were very interested to talk about it, because they both said that the top of this barbecue type unit would be great for doing your ironing on.
They did, yeah. And it was a really macho like kitchen. Guy Ritchie's like, it's a man's kitchen, and they were like, oh, lovely for ironing. Lovely for an iron.
What's cozy? I don't think Guy Ritchie even spoke to me.
Is your mum Irene?
Yeah, she's Irene.
So yeah, we had my mum's Eileen, so it was Eileen and Irene.
Yeah,
it's quite the day.
Oh, my mum was very excited that you were here today. Oh,
Yeah?
She loves Nick.
I bet.
So, what a handsome bloke. Oh, he's proper handsome, that Nick Grimshaw.
Always smells lovely.
Yes.
Thanks,
always
guys.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you. Yeah.
Well done, well done.
The book smells good too.
It's got one of those like samples like you get in
it
magazines.
smells really nice. Yeah, buy it. Buy it and smell it.
Buy it and smell it. Does it? Yeah, lovely book
Do you know
smell.
what? When I got it, I opened it up on Instagram. And I filmed it because I thought, oh, it'll make me emotional when I see it for the first time. And all the comments were like, "Can't believe you didn't smell it." Everyone was very
smells
angry.
books?
Well, everyone on Instagram.
Yeah,
apparently.
but people do things that I find that a bit weird. But, I just love the smell of
think it
books.
does
It's really
smell.
smug.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I love
I
a
just
book.
love
me.
books. I'm never
Love
happier
the
than in a
smell of
bookshop.
books. Yeah, it's like the people who say, "I love love."
Love,
I love love, and I love the smell of books.
I love. There's so many beautiful stories because you have lived in a world which is full of stars, but you've always been true to yourself. You've always been true to your family. You've always known who you are. And I think that's why people love you, Nick, is because you are who you are and you've never apologised. You're just a real great role model for a lot of people. There's some great stories like when you take your mum to a party at Madonna's. So you're very happy to mix who you
love
are
mixing.
with. Yeah, it's
like
perfect.
I always loved that when I was a kid. I loved that because I grew up as not an actual only child because I do have an older brother and sister, but they're like 11 and 13 years older than me. So when I was growing up, I wasn't like playing with them. They were like going to raves, you know. So I did feel like a little bit of an only child. So I'd always sort of be expected to talk to like adults, or if I was a bit bored at my mum's, I'd go and speak to like the elderly neighbours across the road because they smoked, and I thought that was quite glamorous when I was 5.
Yeah.
So I'd like go over to them and I'd sort of chat to everyone. So I think I've always had like a mix of people together.
Yeah.
So whenever I came to London and started doing radio and DJing and get invited to like silly celebrity parties, I'd always be like, well, my mum and dad are coming. So I did take them to the Madonna party once, and my dad like really didn't want to go because we were eating a pie at the time when I got the text, and my dad was like, "I'm not rushing a pie for Madonna, like forget it, I'm having the pie." And he did rush the pie in the end, and then when we got to the party there was like no one there, so he was like, "Told you, should have not rushed that pie." So the whole chapter's called Pies Over Pop Stars, and the importance of,
Yeah.
you know, not choosing a pop star over a pie.
So true, though. It's
It
such
is
a
true.
good lesson because I think it's, you know, in our like comparative age when we're all on social media trying to outdo each other, actually, it's very easy to forget like what is life, like and actually it is having a pie with the people you care about rather than trying to prove something. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
forget Madonna, enjoy your pie.
You know, did you think about taking some pie for Madonna?
Can I get that to go, please? But yeah, I always took them to things like that. And I'd always
Great.
bring them to work with me.
Yeah,
Because
it's
work
lovely.
was quite fun. Like, if I ever had to do, like, a fun interview, they'd come and they'd never know who anyone was.
Yeah.
So, like,
Oh,
they used
lovely.
to come to, like, T4 and we did, like, a Mariah Carey special. And they'd never heard of her. So my dad was like, "She is lovely, that Marie." Marie Carey, gorgeous voice.
You're also terrified of Edward Scissorhands.
Oh my God.
As a child.
Like terrified.
Yeah.
And I think it was sort of laughed at. So I think my mum and dad thought it was quite funny, but actually they've realised, or my mum's realised in this book, that actually it was my first stems of fear and anxiety was from Johnny Depp. My cousin took me to see it, and I think I was just a little bit too young.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we all have like, you know, that programme or something that you watched and you were just a little bit too young.
Yeah, the witches, I remember.
Yeah, the witches.
Really scared of being in the wardrobe. They were in the wardrobe, they were going to come
and
get
I
me.
remember, seeing him and being like, I don't like him at all. He was terrifying because he was a bit like a spider. And like,
Yes.
you can't read Edward Scissorhands, could you?
Yes.
Like, you couldn't really know which way he was going to move. Was he going to just give you a haircut? You didn't
Maybe
know.
just trim your bush.
Yeah. Or was he hot? I don't know.
It's lovely stories and lovely stories about as well, like growing up. I'm always drawn to stories like this about growing up in suburbia and being, because you're from Oldham, aren't you?
Yeah.
And growing up as a, let's say, flamboyant child.
Yeah.
Singing I'm Every Woman in front of your maths class.
I was bubbly and creative. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of like realization in the book because I sort of not really stopped on life till I'd left Radio 1 last year. And when I sat to write it, it was a moment to like take a breather and sit back and look on life and the transitions from, going from like north to south and like growing up and like figuring out my queerness, and I'm gay, and I'd not really seen like gay representation.
Yeah.
Like when I was growing up in sort of the 90s, when I was sort of like 10.
There wasn't any.
There was no gays.
Yeah.
So I was a bit like, who am I? So I felt like a bit like an outsider. So that sort of disgust and the moment that I realised I am a massive gay. And it
one
was
of the biggest.
Yeah, one of the biggest. Not in this room, but in a normal room.
One of.
And like I pinpointed the exact moment of realisation in the book, and it was like I never like fitted in with like the lads.
No way.
Yeah, weird, right? So I thought, I'll get a football magazine, and I like flicked through it, and I saw a moment where I was like, hey, I like football, like I want to put this on my wall, and it was a picture, like the least like laddie football picture ever, and it was a black and white picture of a sort of wet David Beckham. And I took it to my mum and I was like, would you look at this picture? It's amazing.
Oh.
And I was like, can I put it on my wall? And she's like, Ganesh, your dad.
And you did put it on your wall.
And I did put it on my wall. My dad's only concern was use bloody blue tack. Like, don't use sellotape. And I did put it on the wall.
Very important.
And
my dad would have said the same.
Yeah, that was his main concern.
Oh, and I love how you talk about your dad, and I know you lost your dad a few years ago, and it's really personal and beautifully written, and it's a real tour of your world, and it's a really lovely read. So
thank you, Tom.
Nick, you're brilliant.
Thank you, guys.
We love you. Thanks for coming in. Real treat
Tom.
to see you.
Thanks, Sinead.
Enjoy the launch party.
Oh my God.
Take all of Friday off. It's my advice.
I have. It's already cleared.